The injury that changed everything. Eli Carter was a simple man. He worked with machines. Fixing mining bots on the alien planet Virex-9 was not a fun job, but it paid well. The planet was far from Earth, hot, dry, and full of red dust. But Eli didn't mind. He liked being far from the noise of the cities. That morning, he woke up before the sun. The twin moons were still hanging in the purple sky. He ate a protein bar, put on his dusty work boots, and headed out to the mining zone. Bot 7 is down again, his friend Tom called out, saying joint failure. Eli sighed. That old thing. All right, I'll check it out. He walked toward the broken robot. The ground cracked under his boots. Virex-9 always felt like it was breathing. Quiet rumbles in the distance. Nothing serious, just the planet shifting. Or so they thought. Bot 7 was stuck in a narrow canyon, where signal didn't reach well. Eli crouched beside it and opened the side panel. He didn't see the loose rock above him. Suddenly, HFY. A loud snap echoed through the canyon. Eli looked up just in time to see a large rock falling straight toward him. He jumped, but not fast enough. Smash! Pain shot through his leg. It felt like fire, then ice. Then, nothing. Eli screamed. Blood ran down his pants. His leg was crushed under the sharp rock. Help, he shouted, but no one could hear him this deep inside the canyon. He grabbed his comm. No signal. His breathing got heavy. He was trapped, alone, and losing blood fast. He tried to lift the rock. It didn't move. His vision blurred. He leaned back, holding his leg, shaking. Just then, he heard something. Not a voice, not a machine. Breathing. Slow, soft breathing. He turned his head. A figure was watching him from behind a large red crystal. Tall, thin, skin like silver smoke, glowing eyes. Not human. Eli froze. The figure didn't move. It just watched. Then it disappeared, like it was never there. Eli blinked. Maybe he was imagining things. The pain was too much. He was probably hallucinating. Hours passed. The sun began to set. Eli drifted in and out of sleep. His leg was numb now. His lips were dry. He was ready to give up. Then, a shadow moved. He opened his eyes. The alien was back. She stepped forward slowly, her hands raised to show peace. I mean no harm, she said. Her voice was soft, almost like music. Eli stared at her. Who are you? I am called Naira, she said. I saw you fall. Your leg is broken. No kidding, he muttered. I can help you, she said. But my way is not human. Eli coughed. I don't care. I don't want to die here. Naira knelt beside him. From a small pouch, she pulled out thin vines that shimmered in the fading light. The vines moved, like they were alive. Eli's eyes widened. What is that? It is HFY vine, she said. It connects with life. It heals. But it may feel strange. He looked at the vines, then at his leg, then at her glowing eyes. Do it, he whispered. Naira placed the vines gently on his crushed leg. At first, nothing happened. Then, warmth. The vines began to glow. They wrapped around his leg, pulsing with light. Eli gasped. It felt like his bones were being touched by fireflies. Then, he started seeing things. A forest, a giant tree, a child crying. Were these his memories? No, they weren't his. He saw Naira, younger, smiling, then crying beside a fallen HFY elder. He blinked. The visions faded. The vines stopped glowing. Naira looked tired. The first step is done. Eli touched his leg. It still hurt, but he could move his toes. You saw something, she asked. I saw you, he said softly. She looked away. The healing connects us, body and memory. More will come. Eli tried to sit up. Why are you helping me? Naira stood. Because once I failed to save someone. I won't fail again. She turned to leave. Wait, he said. Will I be okay? She paused. Your body is broken, she said. But I can fix you. You must trust me, even when it gets strange. And then she vanished into the shadows. Eli lay back, staring at the stars above. What had just happened? He was alone again. But something inside him had changed. The healing begins. Eli Carter didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, strange images filled his mind. Floating trees, rivers that glowed in the dark, creatures with wings made of light, and Naira's face, calm and sad, always watching him. When he woke, the sun was rising. His leg was no longer numb. The pain was dull now, like a deep bruise instead of broken glass. The vines were still wrapped around it, warm and pulsing gently, like they had a heartbeat of their own. He moved his legs slowly. It didn't feel normal, but it didn't feel dead either. That alone was a miracle. Was it a dream? He whispered to himself. But the vines were real. The glow was real. And so was the faint scent of flowers that drifted through the air, sweet and strange, like nothing he had ever smelled before on Virex 9. Then he heard footsteps. He turned his head fast. Naira was there again. This time, she wasn't alone. Small floating orbs hovered around her shoulders, casting soft green light. Her robe was cleaner, her silver skin glowing brighter in the morning sun. You are awake, she said gently. That is good. Eli tried to sit up. Yeah, somehow. I thought I was dying yesterday. You were, Naira replied. Your leg bones were shattered. Your blood was poisoned with stress. Human medicine would have taken weeks, maybe months. You would have lost the leg. Eli looked at her, uneasy. But not with your method. Naira knelt beside him. The orbs floated down, humming softly. Not with my method. What is your method? Eli asked. These vines, are they alive? They are part of me, she said. Part of my people. Ishari heal with connection, not just to the body, but to memory, emotion, energy. That's why I saw things, Eli murmured. Visions. Of you. Naira's face went still. Yes, when the healing begins, you do not only feel yourself, you feel me. And I feel you. Eli shivered. So you saw. My memories too. She nodded slowly. Your mother. Your home. Your fear of being alone. Your guilt about leaving Earth. Eli looked away, suddenly feeling exposed. I didn't expect therapy from a glowing alien vine. Naira gave a small smile. Healing is never just the body. She reached into her pouch again. This time, she brought out a small stone bowl filled with clear liquid. This will help the second stage. What's in it? He asked. Memory sap, she said. It will open your mind and help the bond grow stronger. Eli hesitated. What happens if I say no? You will survive, she said, but you may never walk the same again. Your body may reject the healing, and the pain will return. He took a deep breath. And if I say yes? Naira's eyes sparkled. You may become more than what you were. There was silence between them for a moment. Eli reached out. Give it to me. She helped him sip the sap. It tasted like water, but thicker, sweet and cold. He felt it slide down his throat like silver. Then everything changed. The sky above him twisted. The ground seemed to breathe. His vision blurred, and then he was standing in a field. But it wasn't real. It was a memory. Not his memory. Naira's. He saw her as a child, running through blue grass, laughing. He saw her learning to heal with an elder, carefully wrapping vines around a small injured creature. Then, pain. The elder was dying. Naira tried to heal him. The vines wouldn't work. The elder faded away. Young Naira screamed. Then, darkness. Eli gasped and opened his eyes. He was back in the canyon, sweating, breathing hard. Naira was sitting beside him, her hand gently on his forehead. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I did not mean for you to see that." "It's okay," he said softly. "I think I needed to." Naira looked down. "You're different from other humans I've met. Most of them fear us. They call us witches, monsters." Eli smiled weakly. "Most humans don't let space vines crawl up their legs either." She laughed, a quiet, musical sound. "You're healing well," she said. "Your body is adapting faster than I expected." "But something's happening," Eli said. "I feel strange. Like I'm hearing things, feeling things that aren't mine." Naira grew serious. "The healing does that. You are linked now, to me, to the vines, to the HFY root system. Your senses will sharpen. Your emotions may feel stronger. It is the price of deep healing." Eli looked up at the red sky. A voice. "Eli, are you out here?" It was Tom. The miners were searching for him. Eli looked at Naira. "I have to go. They'll worry." Naira stood. "Then go. But be careful." "Will I see you again?" he asked. She stepped back into the shadows. "You will feel me, even when I am not near." And just like that, she was gone. Tom found him minutes later and called in a med drone to lift him. "You're lucky to be alive, man," Tom said. "What happened out here?" Eli looked at the vines still wrapped around his leg, pulsing gently under his pants. He smiled faintly. "Just met a strange friend." Changes in the body. Back at the mining base, Eli Carter became the talk of the station. He had returned with a crushed leg, wrapped in glowing vines no one recognized. And now, just 2 days later, he was walking without crutches. No one believed it at first. "Probably a drug," someone said. "No way. I saw his leg. It was flattened," another replied. Whispers followed him everywhere. But Eli didn't care about the whispers. He cared about what was happening to him. It started the night he returned. He was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when he began hearing voices. Not loud, not clear, but soft, like thoughts. Not his thoughts. Emotions. He felt his roommate's frustration before he even spoke. He knew the man in the room next door was crying, even before the sobs started. Eli pressed his hands to his temples. "What is happening to me?" He got up and walked outside. The stars above Virex 9 sparkled in strange shades. He had never noticed how bright they were before. Then he looked at his hand. Tiny patterns glowed faintly under his skin, just for a second, then vanished. The vines, the sap, the connection. Naira had warned him, but he hadn't truly understood what she meant. He wasn't just healing. He was changing. The next day at work, he tried to act normal. He checked mining bots, ran diagnostics, replaced broken parts. But everything felt easier. Too easy. He could sense when a wire was about to snap before it did. He knew which circuit was wrong without even testing it. His reflexes were sharper. His movements smoother. Tom noticed it first. "You're faster today," he said. Eli shrugged. "Just focused." Tom leaned in, lowering his voice. "You sure that alien stuff didn't mess with your head?" Eli forced a laugh. "I feel great." But he didn't. He felt too great, like something inside him was pushing to be noticed, like a quiet storm waiting to burst. That night, it did. He was in the mess hall, eating alone, when a loud clang echoed across the room. A heavy tray slipped from a worker's hand and flew straight toward a small boy, one of the science officer's kids. Without thinking, Eli jumped from his seat. His body moved fast. Too fast. Before anyone could blink, he was across the room. He caught the tray midair, inches from the boy's face. Silence fell. Everyone stared. Eli stood frozen. the tray in his hand, heart pounding. The boy blinked. "Thank you." Eli nodded and backed away slowly. The room stayed quiet until he left. Later that night, the station supervisor, Commander Vale, called him in. The office was cold, clean, and empty except for a single glowing screen. "You've been causing quite a stir, Carter," Vale said, folding his arms. "You walk in with a destroyed leg. 48 hours later, you're sprinting across the cafeteria like a super soldier." "I got help," Eli said. "Yes, from an unauthorized alien source," Vale replied. "We don't know what she did to you. You could be dangerous, infected, controlled." Eli's jaw tightened. "I'm fine. We'll be the judge of that." Vale slid a small device across the table. "Medical scan. Full body." "I already got checked," Eli replied. "This one is different. Higher level." Eli stared at the device. Something inside him said don't do it. Something that didn't feel entirely human. "I want my own doctor present," Eli said. Vale leaned in. "You're not in Earth territory, son. This is Virex 9. We follow protocol here." The meeting ended with a warning. Eli walked out, heart heavy. They didn't see him as healed. They saw him as a threat. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat outside the base, staring into the darkness. "Naira," he whispered, "where are you?" No answer came. But the wind shifted, and then he felt it. A presence. Not footsteps, not sound, just warmth in the air. She was near. From the shadows, she emerged, taller in the moonlight, her silver skin glowing softly. "You called," she said. Eli stood. "Something's wrong." She stepped closer. "Your body is adapting. Your mind is listening. The Ashari gift is strong in you. I'm hearing thoughts, feeling emotions. My skin glows sometimes. They're going to scan me. They think I'm dangerous." Naira looked away. "They fear what they do not understand." "Am I still human?" he asked. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "You are more. Human heart. Ishari senses. A bridge. I didn't ask for this." "Neither did I," she said. "When I healed you, I knew the risk. But I couldn't let you die." "Not again." Eli blinked. "What do you mean, again?" Naira looked up at the sky. "Years ago, I tried to heal a human. He was kind, like you. But the connection failed. His mind rejected the bond. He died." Eli stepped closer. "And now?" "You are different," she said. "You opened your mind. That's why the healing worked. But now you walk between two worlds." Eli sighed. "Then help me survive it." She nodded slowly. "There is more to do. Deeper connection. But it will change you. Forever." "What if I say no?" "Then the changes will grow wild. Uncontrolled. Painful." He looked into her glowing eyes. "I trust you," he said. She smiled faintly. "Then come with me. The next part must be done away from machines. Away from metal." He hesitated, then took a step forward. The vines pulsed under his skin. The wind whispered through the alien trees. And Eli Carter followed her into the dark, hunted by his own. The night Eli left the base with Naira, he crossed a line he could never return from. They traveled on foot, deeper into the wilderness of Virex 9, far beyond any mapped zone. The land was alive, twisting red trees, glowing fungi that pulsed with every step, and rivers that hummed like soft music. The air buzzed with a kind of energy that made his skin tingle. Naira led him silently, her steps light, her senses sharp. Eli followed, feeling more at home in this strange world than he ever had back at the base. But deep down, he knew this peace wouldn't last. Back at the outpost, alarms were ringing. Commander Vale paced in the control room. "Where is Carter?" he barked. Tom, Eli's friend, stood uncomfortably beside the tech crew. "He's gone. Left during the night. Any logs? None. He wiped his access code. Cameras caught nothing. It's like he vanished. Vale's face darkened. He didn't vanish. He's hiding. With that alien. He turned to the operations officer. Send a drone patrol. Thermal scans. I want him found. Alive, if possible. And if he's not fully human anymore? One officer asked. Vale didn't answer. He just stared out the window into the red fog beyond the walls. Then we put him down. Meanwhile, deep in the wildlands, Eli and Nara stopped near a large root system that twisted out of the ground like frozen lightning. This is sacred ground, Naira said softly. Here, the Ashari once healed entire villages. This is where we finish your bond. Eli sat down, exhausted. It feels like the planet itself is watching me. It is, she replied. You are part of it now. She placed her hands on his chest. The vines beneath his skin began to stir. This will not be like before. This time, your heart and mind must sync. Your body must fully accept the Ashari link. Eli took a deep breath. Will it hurt? Yes, she said gently. But so did your first step as a child. He nodded. Let's do it. She began to hum, low, ancient tones that seemed to come from the earth itself. The vines responded, glowing through his skin, wrapping tighter around his limbs, spreading over his back like gentle fire. Then came the pain. Sharp, hot, deep. Eli gritted his teeth as visions slammed into him. He saw the universe as the Ashari did, a web of light, all things connected, every life a glowing thread. He saw the stars. He saw Naira's people, their fall, their exile. And he saw himself, not as a broken man, but as something new. When he opened his eyes, hours had passed. Naira sat beside him, exhausted. It is done, she whispered. He sat up. He could hear everything. The heartbeat of the trees, the emotion in the wind, the life under the soil. He looked at Naira, not just her face, but her essence, her sorrow, her hope. They were bonded now. And in that quiet moment, a sharp sound shattered the peace. Lowly HIRBEEP, LOCTRGET. A drone hovered above the treetops. Red lights flashing. Naira's eyes widened. They found you. Eli stood quickly. Run. Too late. More drones appeared, sleek, armed, and scanning fast. One of them spoke. Subject Eli Carter. Stand down. You are under quarantine by Order 7B. Quarantine, Eli muttered. They think I'm infected. He raised his hand slowly. I'm not your enemy. The drone buzzed louder. Surrender for testing. Nira moved between Eli and the drone. He is not a weapon. The drone fired a stun blast. Naira deflected it with a glowing pulse of energy. That was all it took. The drones turned red. Combat mode. Eli's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Naira and dove behind the massive roots as the forest lit up with stun blasts and flashing beams. Go. This way. Naira shouted. They ran, dodging roots, leaping over glowing pools of liquid, the drones chasing like silent wolves. A blast hit the tree next to Eli. It cracked and fell, blocking their path. They turned and sprinted toward a narrow cliff trail. Do we have a plan? Eli gasped. Survive, Naira said. He looked over the edge. The drop was steep, but there was water below. No time to think. They jumped. They emerged from the river an hour later, soaked and cold. Naira was quiet. Eli sat beside her, breathing hard. They won't stop now, he said. They saw what you did. And what you are becoming, she added. Eli looked at his hand. The glowing lines were stronger now. His skin was slightly cooler. His heartbeat was slow, but powerful. I'm not just human anymore. No, Naira agreed. And they'll fear you more each day. He looked out at the alien horizon. "I don't want to hurt anyone." "You won't," she said, "but you may have to fight to survive." There was a long silence. Then Eli said, "Tell me more about your people. If I'm changing into something like you, I want to know what that means." Naira looked at him, surprised. Then she smiled. And she began to tell him. Back at the base, Commander Vale stared at the footage from the drones. He paused it on one frame, Eli glowing, protecting the alien. "This isn't just healing," he said. "It's transformation." An officer leaned in. "Should we request off-world support?" "No," Vale said coldly. "We fix our own problems." He turned to the tech crew. "Next drone squad. No capture orders. If he resists, terminate." Deep in the forest, Eli watched the stars above. He felt his heartbeat matching the rhythm of the planet. He was hunted by the people he once trusted. He was protected by a being he barely knew. But in that moment, he didn't feel lost. He felt something stronger. Purpose. And maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of who he was. It was the beginning. The truth about the healing. The forest around Eli felt quieter now. Not because the drones were gone. They would return soon. But because something had shifted inside him. It wasn't just that he could feel the heartbeat of the plants or sense the fear in small animals nearby. It was something deeper, something pulling at his core. The healing was no longer healing. It was transforming. He sat cross-legged beneath a twisting blue tree, watching the glowing leaves swirl in the wind. Naira sat across from him, eyes closed, her silver hands resting on the soil like she was listening to it breathe. "Tell me everything," Eli said. Naira opened her eyes slowly. "Everything." "Yes," he said. "What your people did. What I'm becoming. Why this bond feels like it's rewriting who I am." She took a long breath. Then she began. "Long ago," Naira said, "the Ishari were healers, known across star systems. We didn't conquer. We didn't control. We connected. We could repair bones, erase disease, and even heal minds. Not by cutting or burning, but by weaving our essence with the wounded." Eli listened closely. "But the deeper the bond, the deeper the change," she said. "The one being healed would begin to take on traits. Our sensitivity, our energy, our senses. We became known not as healers, but as corruptors. Not everyone was ready for the connection. Many rejected it, mentally, physically. Some went mad. Some died." She looked away. "After a time, we were forbidden to heal non-Ishari. We were exiled to dead worlds. Virex 9 was one of them." Eli stared into the light dancing above. "But you still healed me." "I broke our law," she said, "because I saw something in you. You didn't resist. You welcomed the connection." He nodded slowly. "And now I'm not just healed. I'm changing." She didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, "Yes, your body is adapting to our neural web. Your skin is forming biocurrents. You can feel life around you, because you are merging with it." Eli closed his eyes. He could feel the tree behind him. He could feel Naira's pulse, steady and calm. "Why me?" he asked. "Why did it work?" "Because you were open," she whispered. "Most humans fear change. You accepted it." That night, Eli walked alone through the forest. He stopped by a stream that glowed faintly with Ishari light. His reflection stared back at him. His face was still his. But the eyes were different, brighter. The skin beneath them shimmered faintly. The vines had vanished, but what they left behind was a part of him now, etched into his very being. Suddenly, he heard a noise, soft footsteps. He turned. Tom stepped out of the bushes, breathing hard, holding up a scanner that flickered with static. "Eli," Tom said. "It is you." Eli froze. "What are you doing here?" "They sent me," Tom said. "I track your trail. I told them I needed to find you before they did, before the drones. Eli kept his distance. You came to warn me. Yes. And Tom hesitated to ask, what the hell happened to you, man? Eli didn't know where to start. I was dying. An alien saved me. But she didn't just fix my leg. She opened something in me. Now I can feel things. See things. Not just with my eyes. Tom's face tightened. They're calling you a threat, Eli. Some think you've been taken over. I'm still me, Eli said. But I'm also something more. Tom stared. Then come back. Prove it. Let them see. Eli looked at his glowing hands. They won't see. They'll scan. Test. Lock me up. Or worse. You can't stay out here forever. I know, Eli said. But I'm not ready to go back. Not yet. Tom lowered his scanner. Then what will you do? Eli looked toward the stars. I need to understand what I'm becoming. And I need to decide if that's something I can live with. Later, around a small HFY fire that glowed with blue flames, Eli sat with Naira again. I saw Tom, he said. He doesn't know whether to save me or report me. He is afraid, Naira replied. But he still came. That means there is hope. Eli nodded slowly. I need to ask you something. Anything. What happens if I'd fully accept this? All of it. The bond, the senses, the power. Naira's expression grew somber. You will become something new, she said. Not a Sherry. Not human. A bridge between both. But that path is hard. You will lose things. Like what? Time. Memory. You may forget how it feels to be fully human. You may never be able to return to your world. And if I don't accept it, he asked, the bond will break. Your body will begin to reject the energy. You will grow sick. And you may die. Eli stared into the fire. Two paths. Neither easy. One led to death. The other to transformation and exile. Why does it have to be so hard? He whispered. Naira placed her hand gently on his. Because real healing always is. That night, Eli made his decision. He walked into the heart of the HFY grove, a circle of giant trees, humming with ancient energy. He stood beneath the largest root arch and spoke aloud. I choose the path. All of it. I choose to become what this healing is making me. The ground lit up beneath him. The trees responded, humming louder. Naira stepped into the circle. Then kneel. He knelt. She placed her hand on his chest. You accept the gift? She asked. I do. The light surged. His body shook. Visions came again. This time faster, brighter, deeper. He saw both worlds, Earth and HFY. He saw himself between them. Not lost, but whole. When it was over, he stood, changed. Fully. Not just healed, but transformed. Far away, in the human command room, the scanners blinked wildly. Commander, an officer said, we've picked up a signal. Massive energy spike. Biological and something else. Vale leaned in. Where? In the dead grove. But sir, it's not just Carter. What do you mean? There's something new, something we've never seen before, becoming more than human. The next morning, the grove felt different. The air was still, but full of pressure, like the moment before a storm. The ground was quiet, but humming deep beneath the roots. Even the colors of the leaves had shifted, brighter, sharper. Eli Carter stood at the center of it all, changed in a way no one on Earth had ever been. His skin shimmered faintly under the sun, not like metal, not like stone, but like something alive. The lines beneath his skin had become clear, glowing softly with each heartbeat. When he moved, the energy around him moved too, responding to him, sensing him. Naira stood beside him, watching closely. She wasn't just proud. She was afraid. You are ready now, she said. Eli looked at his hands. He could feel every insect crawling on the bark of every tree. He could hear the animals breathing underground. And somewhere beyond, in the steel walls of the human base, he could sense fear. "They're coming," he said. Naira nodded. "They felt your awakening. They fear it." Eli took a long breath. "Then I can't hide anymore." At the command center, alarms rang across the board. "Energy spike confirmed," the tech officer said. "Seismic pulse across the forest. Air temperature increased by 1 degree across a 5-mile radius." Commander Vale's face was hard as stone. "Send the strike team." "But sir, the signal is biological. If Carter's still human." "He's not," Vale snapped. "We can't risk it. If he's infected, if the alien has taken control, this could be a planetary threat." The room fell silent. Then, "Strike team is moving." Eli stood at the edge of the grove, watching the dust trails rising on the horizon. Troop carriers, drones, weapons, they were coming fast. He didn't feel anger. He didn't feel panic. He felt clarity. "They won't listen to you," Naira said gently. "You know that." "Maybe not," Eli replied, "but they'll listen to something else." He raised his hand and touched the tree beside him. A pulse of energy rippled through the roots. The forest stirred. Leaves rustled. Vines uncurled. The air buzzed with awareness. "I'm not going to fight them," Eli said. "I'm going to show them." Minutes later, the soldiers arrived, cautious, armored, guns drawn. They moved in formation, scanning every corner of the grove. Then they saw him, standing alone, hands by his side, unarmed. "Eli Carter," one soldier shouted. "You're under Earth Authority detainment. Surrender now." Eli stepped forward. "I won't fight you," he said calmly. His voice was deeper now, not louder, just more resonant. The soldiers hesitated. The lead officer raised his scanner. It beeped wildly. "Bio readings unstable," he whispered. "He's something else." "Put him down," another shouted. Guns lifted. Naira stepped from the shadows, but Eli held up a hand. "No," he said. "Let me." He walked forward slowly. The soldiers tensed. "I know what you see," Eli said. "You see someone different. You see change. And that scares you." "Shut up," a soldier shouted. "I've been scared too," Eli continued. "I was. But this isn't infection. This isn't control. This is healing. Back off." But then, he did something unexpected. He raised his hands and knelt. "I won't run. I won't fight. If you need to take me in, do it." The soldiers looked at each other, confused. No one moved. Then, a scream. A medic behind the group collapsed. Blood on his sleeve. A shard of metal had pierced him during a rough landing. "Medic down," someone yelled. They rushed over. "He's losing blood. Arterial. No pulse." And then, Eli stood up. "I can help." They turned, weapons rising again. "Stay back." But Naira stepped beside him. "Let him." The commander nodded hesitantly. Eli knelt beside the dying man, placed both hands over the wound, closed his eyes, and let it happen. The energy flowed from him, calm, golden, warm. The metal slid out. The bleeding stopped. Tissue closed. The medic gasped and opened his eyes. Alive. Whole. Everyone froze. One of the soldiers whispered, "That's not possible." Eli stood. "I don't want to be your enemy," he said. "I don't want to fight. But this, what the Ishari gave me, it's not a curse. It's a gift." Later, as the sun dipped low, the soldiers returned to base. Some confused, some shaken, some silent. But they didn't take Eli with them, not that day. In the command center, Vale reviewed the footage. He watched Eli kneel, watched him heal, watched the soldiers lower their weapons. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "If we can't control him, we may have to erase him." That night, Eli sat beneath the stars. Naira sat beside him, silent. "You were right," he said. "They fear what they don't understand." And now, "Some saw," Eli said. "Some felt it. Maybe that's enough to begin." Naira looked at him with something close to wonder. "You did what no HFY ever could," she said. "You became one of us. And yet more." He looked at his glowing hand. "I'm not a human anymore," he said softly. "But I'm not a weapon either." She smiled gently. "You're becoming what the universe needs." They sat in silence, watching the moon rise. But deep in the forest, something else was watching. A new kind of human. The air was thick with tension. Eli Carter stood in the heart of the forest, HFY energy glowing beneath his skin, vines quietly moving through the ground around his feet like living roots responding to his breath. He wasn't hiding anymore. Not from the humans. Not from what he had become. Not from what was coming. He stared into the dark horizon, where the metal beasts of Earth were gathering again. This time, not with questions, but with orders. And deep inside, he could feel it. The end of something, and the beginning of something else. Earlier that morning, a coded message had reached the outpost. Earth Command Authorization. Terminate bioanomaly #ST239. Use all force necessary. Commander Vale read it twice. Then again. He tapped his comm. Prepare the drop team. Orbital weapon clearance granted. Sir, we've got non-combatants nearby. Workers, researchers. They knew the risks. Execute the order. Meanwhile, back in the HFY grove, Eli stood with Naira beneath the ancient healing tree. Its glowing branches reached toward the sky, pulsing slowly with every breath they took. Naira placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "They've chosen fear," she whispered. "I expected that," Eli said. "But I hoped healing would be enough." "You are healing," Naira said. "But it's not just wounds you've touched. It's something older, something more dangerous." "What do you mean?" She turned, gesturing to the roots beneath them. "When you bonded with the HFY energy, you didn't just change your body. You touched the source, the living energy that connects everything on this planet, and maybe far beyond." Eli frowned. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't have to mean to," she said. "You opened your soul. That was enough." He looked at his hands. The glow was constant now, soft but ever-present. He could feel life in every leaf, in every drop of moisture in the soil. "What do I do now?" he asked. "You choose," Naira said. "Do you run, fight, or do something no one expects?" By nightfall, the sky had changed. Flashes of red shimmered across the clouds. From orbit, something was descending. Missile platforms, drones, mechanized walkers. The Earth was sending its judgment. They weren't coming to capture anymore. They were coming to erase. Tom burst into Eli's camp, breathless. "They're coming, Eli. Full force. This isn't a scare tactic. They're going to wipe the whole grove." Eli stood calmly, eyes on the sky. "I know. Then why aren't we running?" "Because running won't stop them, and fighting would prove them right." "Then what?" Tom shouted. "Let them kill you." "No," Eli said softly. "I'm going to let them see." Hours later, the sky split open. Flames fell from the stars as drones descended, forming dark clouds above the grove. They surrounded the clearing, weapons humming with energy. Eli stepped into the open, alone, hands raised. Commander Vale's voice echoed from a hovering transport. "Step away from the alien zone and lay down. This is your final warning." Eli didn't move. Instead, he knelt. Not in surrender, but in peace. Naira stepped beside him, vines growing gently from her sleeves into the soil. Behind her, dozens of HFY emerged from the trees, peaceful, glowing, silent. The drones charged, weapons locked. Then something unexpected happened. Every scanner glitched, every HUD flashed. The drones stopped responding. One by one, they froze in the sky. A low hum filled the air. The trees pulsed with blue light. The ground breathed like a heartbeat. And in the center of it all, Eli glowed. Not like a weapon, not like a monster, but like something sacred. His voice echoed, not with power, but with truth. I was broken. You all saw it. I was left for dead. I was nothing. Just a tool to fix your machines and die on your rocks. And you know what saved me? Not your tech, not your orders, but an alien who showed me that healing isn't about stitches or steel. It's about connection, about feeling, about trust. I didn't lose myself. I found myself, and I'm still Eli Carter. Just more. I don't want war. I don't want to fight. But I will not let you destroy something just because you don't understand it. The ground shook. A wave of HFY energy rippled outward, harmless, but impossible to ignore. The humans lowered their weapons, some by command, some by instinct. Commander Vale watched from his ship, and for the first time, he hesitated. The next day, the order changed. Earth Command halted the mission. Eli wasn't taken. Instead, a delegation was sent. A negotiation began. Slow, careful, but real. Because Eli had done something no one expected. He had shown them what peace looked like. Not with force, but with truth. Weeks later, the grove stood untouched. The HFY stepped cautiously into the open world again, and Eli Carter became something of a symbol. To some, a myth. To others, a miracle. But to Nera, he was something else. Hope. On a quiet evening, as stars danced above Virex 9, Eli stood alone beneath the healing tree. Tom walked up behind him. "You're really staying?" Tom asked. Eli smiled. "This is home now. You could come back. Earth might." Eli shook his head. "I'm not meant to go back. I'm meant to build something new." Tom looked around. "You think they'll ever really accept all this?" "Maybe not all at once," Eli said, "but healing takes time." He reached down and touched the soil. It glowed warmly under his palm. He looked at Tom. "At least now, they're willing to listen." And so, Eli Carter, once just a mechanic on a forgotten planet, became the first bridge between species, not by command, not by power, but by healing. He was no longer just human. He was something more. And in the end, that made all the difference.